At 2:17 a.m., the snow outside Walter Reed wasn't falling anymore. It was attacking. The wind kept slamming into the glass like it had a personal problem. The parking lot lights threw weak yellow circles onto a mess of white that never stopped moving. Somewhere out on, 95 people were learning the hard way that all-wheel drive is not a personality trait. Inside the hospital felt like a different planet. Dry air, bright lights, beeping monitors, radios crackling. The kind of controlled chaos that only looks controlled if you've been trained to work inside it. We'd been on Moscow footing for almost an hour. Regional Mass Casualty Protocol. The words sound clean on paper. In real life, it means every phone line is hot, every hallway has a stretcher in it, and every nurse is moving like they've got a second heartbeat. Montgomery County had called it in after a pileup on the interstate. Multiple vehicles, black ice, visibility close to zero. Civilian hospitals were already saturated. That's the polite way of saying their ERs were drowning. So Walter Reed was taking civilian overflow. Because when people are bleeding, nobody wants to hear a lecture about paperwork. I was the senior trauma officer on duty. Major Harper Bennett, Army Medical Corps. The title doesn't come with a cape. It comes with a pager that never shuts up and a steady diet of bad coffee. The kind that tastes like someone rinsed out a tire and called it bold. I walked the trauma bay line checking assignments the way I always did. Not hovering, not micromanaging, just making sure we didn't miss the basics in the noise. Airway, breathing, circulation, imaging, labs, blood products ready. The monitors were loud enough to feel in your teeth. The overhead speaker called out another inbound adult trauma. Orthopedics was already tied up. Anesthesiology was short 2 people, because one of them couldn't get across the bridge in the storm, and the other had been here since yesterday morning. People think the military runs like a machine. It does, until the machine gets cold and hungry, and you realize it's still made of humans. A corpsman jogged up with a clipboard, cheeks flushed from running the corridor. Ma'am, EMS update. Civilian pediatric trauma diverted under Moscow. Blunt chest injury. Hypotensive. ETA. 3 minutes. Pediatric. My eyes went straight to the intake board. The digital screen had a list of names and numbers, the kind of list that's just data until it isn't. Then it refreshed. Madison Bennett. Triniast F. ET. A 0 dry null null. My hand stopped mid-motion on the edge of the stainless counter. For a second, the trauma bay noise didn't disappear. It got farther away like someone turned down the world without asking. Bennett isn't the rarest name on earth, but it's not the point. It was the full hit first name, last name, age female, and a weird punch of certainty right in my chest. Madison, my sister's daughter, my niece. The last time I'd been in the same room as her, she was 8 years old in a stiff holiday dress, eyes wide and scared, repeating words that were too heavy for a kid to carry. Words that blew up my family in under a minute. I didn't get the luxury of standing there. 3 minutes is nothing in trauma time. I forced my brain back onto the track. Okay, I said. Voice steady, not loud. Peds Bay 2. Warm blankets ready. Get thoracic set on standby. Call CT and tell them we may not be coming to them. The team moved on my words. Not because I'm magical, but because clarity is a relief when everything else is spinning. I pulled on gloves while I walked, then checked the PED's crash cart myself. Not because I don't trust my people. Because when the patient is a kid, you don't assume. You verify. A nurse stepped up beside me. Lieutenant Morris. Solid calm, the kind of nurse you want in a storm. Ma'am, she said quietly. Eyes on the intake board, that name. Focus, I cut in, not harsh, just firm. Name later. Vitals first. She nodded. No drama. Just work. The double doors at the ambulance entrance hissed open, and the wind pushed a gust of icy air inside like it was trying to join the party. A stretcher flew in paramedics, running with its boots squeaking on the tile. A teenage girl lay strapped down, face-pale hair stuck to her forehead, oxygen mask fogging with each breath. Her chest rose in short, fast pulls like she was trying to outrun pain. 13-year-old female, a medic called. High-speed MVC restrained passenger. Chest impact from belt and airbag. Hypotensive en route. Heart rate 140. Pressure now 78/40. Decreased breath sounds, left neck veins look distended. She's getting more confused. I was already at her side. Madison's eyes fluttered, not quite finding me. Her lips moved like she wanted to talk but couldn't afford the air. Madison. I said, not gentle, not cold. Just clear. You're at the hospital. We're going to help you. Don't try to sit up. She blinked again and her gaze slid away. Ultrasound, I said. The probe hit her chest. The screen showed exactly what I didn't want it to show. Pericardial effusion, I said. And she's tamponating. My stomach tightened, but my hands stayed steady. In plain English, blood was filling the sac around her heart and squeezing it like a fist. Time was already a problem. Large bore IVs now, I said. Type and cross activate massive transfusion, but keep it controlled. Notify OR1. I want thoracic instruments. We're going upstairs. A resident hesitated for half a second. Ma'am, do we needle decompress first? Not the priority, I said. This is tamponade. We relieve pressure, she dies. We move. The medic who'd brought her in leaned closer. Family is right behind us. I looked up toward this entrance. A woman stumbled through the doors, hair wet with snow, a cut on her forehead bleeding down into her eyebrow. She looked like she'd sprinted through a nightmare. Vanessa, my sister. For a split second, she didn't recognize me. She was scanning for a doctor, any doctor the way people do when they're desperate and their brain is running on panic. Then her eyes hit my name tape and rank on my scrubs. Major Bennett. Her face changed so fast it was almost impressive. Relief didn't show up. Not even for a moment. It was horror, like she'd just seen the one person she prayed she'd never need. She pushed forward. No, get away from her. Security moved instinctively, but my team's movement slowed because humans are wired to react to screaming. Vanessa grabbed the rail of the stretcher, fingers white. Don't let her touch my daughter, she yelled, voice cracking. She'll let her die. She hates me. Madison let out a thin sound behind the oxygen mask. Her heart rate jumped on the monitor like it heard the shouting. I didn't look at Vanessa. I looked at my nurse. Get her hands off my stretcher, I said. 2 security officers stepped in. Vanessa fought them with the wild energy of someone who thinks volume is an argument. Over her shoulder, I saw 2 more figures come through the doors, slower, heavier, shaken by the storm and the fear. My parents. Douglas and Patricia Bennett. My father's hair was whiter than I remembered. My mother clutched his arm like she needed him upright to stay standing herself. My father's eyes landed on Madison first. Then they landed on me. His mouth opened like he wanted to speak, but nothing came out. The monitor alarm sped up again. Madison's blood pressure dropped another notch. I stepped closer to the stretcher, blocking the line between Vanessa and the patient, and the room narrowed down to one truth. Move, I said, not to Vanessa, not to my parents, but to everyone who had a pulse and was in the way. Or now. I kept my hands on the stretcher and walked with it as the doors burst open toward the elevators. Vanessa's voice was still echoing behind me, but the only sound that mattered now was Madison's heart trying to beat inside a space that was closing in on it. The team moved fast. Boots squeaked. Metal wheels rattled over tile seams. Someone hit the elevator button 3 times like that would make it come faster. My father's voice cut through the hallway. Harper. I didn't slow down. The elevator doors slid open and we pushed inside. I could feel eyes on my back. My mother crying. Vanessa fighting security. My father trying to decide if he trusted me more than he feared me. The doors closed and for a few seconds it was just me, my team, and a 13-year-old girl who had no idea how long 5 years could feel. The last time I saw her before tonight, she was 8. Thanksgiving. Alexandria. The kind of cold that makes you regret parking too far from the house but not enough to cancel dinner. My parents' place smelled like turkey rosemary, and whatever candle my mother was pretending was subtle. Grant had stood beside me in the entryway, holding a bottle of wine like a peace offering. He'd shaved that morning, worn a clean button-down, done everything right. He didn't need to impress anyone, but he respected the uniform and the family it came from. He'd been divorced for 4 months. Final decree signed in Fairfax County. 2 years separated before that. It wasn't messy. It wasn't dramatic. It was 2 adults who tried and failed and signed paperwork like grown people. We met after it was over. No overlap, no secrets, no midnight hotel rooms, Just two people who had both spent too much time in airports and not enough time at home. Vanessa had been sitting at the table already when we walked in, wine glass half full. Madison next to her, feet swinging under the chair. My mother kissed Grant's cheek. My father gave him the Marine stare down, the one that measures a man's spine through eye contact alone. Dinner started normal. Small talk. Deployment timelines. The weather. Football. My father asking Grant what unit he'd served with, then nodding once like that answered something important. Halfway through the meal, Vanessa put her fork down. Not loud, not dramatic, just deliberate. "Are you going to tell them?" she asked, looking straight at me, "or should I?" The table went quiet in that way only family tables can. "Tell them what I asked." She let out a small laugh, the kind that sounds like concern dressed up as kindness. "That you were seeing him while he was still married." My mother blinked. My father's shoulders stiffened. Grant didn't move. He just looked at Vanessa like he was waiting for the punchline. "That's not true," I said. Vanessa shook her head slowly. "His wife found out about you. That's why they divorced." Grant leaned forward. "Ma'am, that's not even close to accurate." Vanessa ignored him. "She met him before the divorce was final," she told my parents. "Ask her when they started talking." My father turned to me. "When did you meet him?" "After the divorce," I said. 4 months after. It's public record." Vanessa let out a breath like she was disappointed in me. "That's not what I heard," she said. "I talked to someone who knows his ex." Grant's jaw tightened. "Who?" Vanessa didn't answer. She didn't need to. She'd already planted it. My mother looked at Madison. "Sweetheart, what did Mommy tell you?" Madison looked at her plate first, then at her mother, then at me. "Mom said Aunt Harper broke up a marriage," she said quietly. The words hit the table like something heavy and permanent. I felt heat crawl up my neck, not from guilt, but from the sudden understanding that this wasn't confusion. It was a plan. "Madison," I said, keeping my voice even, "that's not what happened." Vanessa's hand landed on her daughter's shoulder. Not violent, just firm enough. "Don't," she said to me. "She's just repeating what she knows." Grant reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document. "I brought a copy of the divorce decree," he said calmly. "I figured it might come up." Vanessa laughed. "Of course you did. My father didn't even look at the paper. Why would anyone say that about you?" He asked me if there wasn't something there. That was the moment I understood this wasn't about facts. It was about narrative. Vanessa knew exactly what my father believed about marriage, about duty, about honor. She didn't need proof. She just needed doubt. "I met him after it was final," I said again. There was no overlap. Vanessa leaned back in her chair. "So you're saying his marriage just happened to end right before you showed up?" Grant's voice hardened. "My marriage ended because it wasn't working. It had nothing to do with her." Vanessa looked at my parents like she was tired of defending herself. "I just don't want this family dragged into some scandal," she said softly. "She's an officer. If this comes out the wrong way..." That did it. My father stood up. "Are you telling me," he said slowly, "that you were involved with a married man while wearing that uniform?" "No," I said. "Because if you were," he continued, "that's not just personal. That's disgraceful." "I wasn't," I said. Vanessa's voice cut in again. "He was still legally married when they started talking." Grant shook his head. "That's a lie." Madison's eyes filled with tears. My mother whispered Harper, and then my father said the words that still ring clearer than any monitor alarm. "You don't deserve that uniform if this is true." "It's not true." He looked at Vanessa. "Would you lie about something like this?" he asked her. Vanessa's face softened in that practiced way. "Why would I?" No one asked for the document in Grant's hand. No one pulled out a phone to check court records. They chose the easier story. My father walked to the front door and opened it. "Until this is cleared up," he said, "you shouldn't come back here." The air outside had been cold that night. It felt colder standing on the porch with my overnight bag in my hand, and my boyfriend next to me while the door shut on the sound of silverware still on the table. 2 weeks later, an email hit my Army inbox from the Inspector General's office. Allegation of misconduct. Anonymous source. The timeline in that email matched Vanessa's story almost word for word. Back in the elevator, the numbers above the door ticked upward toward the OR level. Madison's blood pressure dipped again. I adjusted the IV rate and leaned closer to her. "You stay with me," I told her. "You don't get to check out tonight." The elevator doors opened, and the past stopped being a memory and turned into something I had to operate through. The first thing I noticed when I walked into the Inspector General's office wasn't the officer behind the desk. It was the silence. No beeping monitors, No rushing feet. No controlled chaos. Just a quiet room with neutral walls and a flag in the corner. The kind of quiet that makes your own breathing sound suspicious. Major Bennett, the investigator, said, sliding a folder across the desk. It wasn't thick. That somehow made it worse. I sat down. Back straight. Hands on my thighs. Same posture I'd used in boards evaluations and one very uncomfortable promotion review where someone asked if I was emotionally resilient enough for combat medicine. I opened the folder. Printed emails. Timeline notes. A summary paragraph at the top. Anonymous allegation, inappropriate relationship with a married service member. Possible conduct unbecoming an officer. Possible violation of Article 134. My name looked different in that font. When did you begin a relationship with Mr. Caldwell? The investigator asked. 4 months after his divorce was finalized, I said, do you have documentation of that? Yes. He nodded once, wrote something down. Were you aware of any communication between you and Mr. Caldwell prior to the legal dissolution of his marriage? No. Were you in contact with him during his separation period? No. Did you at any point engage in conduct that could be interpreted as contributing to the dissolution of his marriage? No. The questions kept coming. Calm, clinical, not accusing, but not friendly either. They took my phone, my email login, asked for text history, asked for names of anyone who might claim they saw us together before a certain date. Grant sat in a different room answering the same questions. Deployment orders that had been sitting in my inbox were suddenly labeled pending review. 6 weeks. That's how long it took. 6 weeks of waiting while people in my unit tried not to look curious. 6 weeks of walking into the officer's lounge and feeling conversations pause half a beat too long. Nobody confronted me directly. The Army isn't high school. But rumors don't need permission to circulate. One captain I'd mentored stopped asking me for advice. A lieutenant who used to joke about my coffee habit suddenly got very formal. It wasn't loud. It was subtle, which somehow made it more effective. At the end of week 6, I got called back into the IG office. Major Bennett, the investigator, said we found no evidence of misconduct. He slid another document toward me. Cleared. No violation. Case closed. There was no apology, no ceremony, no public announcement correcting anything, just a quiet closure and a line in my file allegation investigated. That line would sit there permanently. Technically, I was clean. Unofficially, I'd been measured. My deployment resumed. I landed in Bagram 3 weeks later, stepped off the transport into heat and dust that erased the memory of snow. Combat medicine doesn't give you time to nurse your pride. The first week, we treated blast injuries from an IED strike. The second week, it was a rollover accident on base. The third week, a 19-year-old private with penetrating chest trauma from shrapnel. He was conscious when they wheeled him in, kept apologizing for bleeding on the stretcher. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said. "Didn't mean to make a mess." "You didn't," I told him. "You're fine." He wasn't. We cracked his chest open in a surgical tent that smelled like antiseptic and desert dust. My hands moved on muscle memory. Suction, clamp, repair. Blood pooled faster than we could replace it. His heart stopped once. We brought it back. It stopped again. The second time, it didn't come back. I stood there with my gloves still on, while the monitor flattened into a line that meant paperwork and a folded flag. Nobody asks if you're emotionally resilient enough after that. You either are or you aren't. I didn't sleep well for months after that case. Not because I blamed myself, because there's a difference between knowing you did everything right and accepting that it wasn't enough. When I rotated back stateside, I started seeing a therapist on base. Voluntary, confidential. The Army is getting better about that. Slowly. Grant was the one who pushed me to go. He'd moved to the area near Fort Belvoir by then. Defense contracting. Long hours, clean haircut, same steady presence. We got married at the Arlington courthouse on a Wednesday afternoon. 2 witnesses we barely knew. No white dress, no aisle. Just signatures and a judge who pronounced our names correctly on the second try. My parents didn't come. They knew. I'd sent an email. No response. Vanessa sent one message months earlier. "I hope you're happy with what you did." I never replied. Back at Walter Reed, I built a reputation the only way you can in trauma surgery. By showing up, by not flinching, by not missing things. Residents rotated through my service and learned quickly that I didn't care about excuses. I cared about details. You forgot to check for tamponade. We talk. You didn't reassess vitals. We talk longer. You did your job under pressure. I back you up every time. Over time, the whisper network faded. Not because people apologized, because competence is hard to argue with. 2 months before the snowstorm, my name landed on a promotion consideration list. Lieutenant Colonel, nothing guaranteed. Just eligible. I didn't tell my family, there was no point. The night of the storm, when Madison's name flashed on the intake board, all of that history compressed into one sharp realization. The same family that believed an anonymous email over their own daughter was now standing outside an operating room, waiting on the outcome of my decisions. The OR doors swung open and we rolled Madison in. Prep and drape, I said. Anesthesia status. Pressure's dropping. She's crashing. The monitor numbers slid lower. There's a moment before you make an incision where everything narrows. Not emotionally, physically. Just you, the field, and the next move. I took the scalpel, and I didn't hesitate. The blade went through skin and soft tissue in one clean motion. Midline, I said. Suction ready. Dark blood welled up fast, thicker than it should have been in that space. The pericardium was tight, stretched like it was holding its breath. She's tamponating hard, anesthesia said. Pressure 60 systolic. I see it. I opened the sac around her heart. Blood spilled out in a rush, and for half a second the room held still. Then the monitor changed. Her rhythm steadied. Not perfect, but alive. BP climbing. 75, 80. Good, I said. Find the source. We worked in controlled silence. No shouting, no drama. Just metal-on-metal suction clamp sutures. The kind of choreography you only get after years of doing the same hard thing. There was a small tear in the right ventricle. Nasty angle. Likely from blunt force when the seatbelt locked and the airbag hit. 4-0 proline, I said. A resident's hand hovered for a second before placing it in mine. I didn't look up. He steadied himself and leaned in closer. Watch your depth, I told him quietly. You punched through that wall and we're in worse shape. He adjusted. We closed the tear. Check the liver, I said. Fast, showed free fluid. There was a laceration there too. Manageable. Bleeding but not catastrophic. Pack it. We'll reassess. Madison's numbers improved slowly, like her body was deciding whether to trust us. By the time we finished, the room didn't feel like an emergency anymore. It felt like work. We transferred her to ICU in stable but critical condition. Ventilated, sedated, alive. I stripped off my gown and gloves, dropped them in biohazard, and scrubbed in silence. My reflection in the stainless steel sink didn't look different from any other night. That was the part that surprised me. 5 years ago, a lie had nearly taken my career. Tonight, the source of that lie had just needed my hands to keep her daughter's heart beating. And my hands didn't shake. When I stepped into the surgical waiting area, the storm outside had faded into background noise. The fluorescent lights made everyone look pale. Vanessa stood near the vending machines pacing. Snow had melted into dark patches on her coat. A bandage now covered the cut on her forehead. My parents sat side by side. My mother's hands were clasped together so tight, her knuckles were white. My father stared at the floor like he was studying it. Grant leaned against the far wall. Calm, watching. All eyes shifted when I walked in. She's stable, I said. We repaired the tear in her heart and controlled the bleeding. She's in the ICU. My mother exhaled in a shaky rush. Thank God, she whispered. Vanessa stepped forward. Is she going to be okay? She's critical, I said. The next 24 hours matter. But she's alive. Vanessa looked at me like she wanted to say something else. Instead, she glanced at my father. My father stood up slowly. You did the surgery yourself, he asked. Yes. There was a long pause. I didn't think they'd let you, he said. They let the most qualified surgeon take the case. The words weren't sharp, just factual. Vanessa's jaw tightened. You didn't have to be the one, she said. They could have assigned someone else. No, I said. Under Mascal protocol, cases are assigned by severity and availability. I was on duty. She looked away first. A nurse approached us quietly. Family can see her one at a time, she said. My mother stood immediately. My father hesitated, then followed. Vanessa lingered. You think this fixes anything, she asked under her breath. This isn't about fixing anything, I said. It's about a 13-year-old who almost died. Her eyes flashed. You've always loved being right. I almost smiled at that. Not always, I said. Just when I am. She folded her arms. You're still the reason my life fell apart. There it was. The rewritten narrative. The one that kept her comfortable. Your life didn't fall apart because of me, I said evenly. She leaned closer. You humiliated this family. I looked past her toward the ICU doors, where Madison lay sedated machines doing what machines do best. I wasn't the one who sent that email to the Inspector General, I said quietly. Her face didn't change, but she didn't deny it either. Grant stepped forward slightly, not threatening. Just present. Now's not the time, he said. Vanessa shot him a look and walked toward the ICU. Grant watched her go. You okay? He asked. I'm fine. He studied my face. He knows when I'm lying. This isn't the part that bothers me, I added. What part does? The part where they believed it. He didn't argue. There's no defense for that. In the ICU, Madison lay small under the blankets, tubes, and monitors doing their quiet jobs. My mother stood beside her, brushing hair away from her forehead. My father stood at the foot of the bed. He looked older than he had in the hallway. When he saw me enter, he cleared his throat. She looks so small, he said. She is, I replied. My mother's eyes were red. Harper. I held up a hand gently. She needs rest, I said. Keep it quiet. We stood there in the low hum of machines. 5 years ago, I'd stood on their porch in the cold while they shut the door on me. Tonight, they stood in a hospital room I run, watching their granddaughter breathe because I didn't walk away. My father finally looked at me directly. I didn't know, he said. That sentence has 1,000 variations. It never changes the past. About what I asked. He swallowed. About the email. About everything. I nodded once. Madison's heart rate ticked steadily on the monitor. Outside the room, I saw 2 uniformed officers speaking quietly with a hospital administrator. Vanessa wasn't with them. I glanced at my father again. There's something else you don't know, I said. I stepped out into the hallway before he could answer. The ICU doors closed softly behind me, sealing off the steady rhythm of Madison's monitor. The corridor felt cooler than it should have. Hospitals do that on purpose. Keeps people alert. Or maybe it just keeps them from falling apart. The 2 police officers I'd seen earlier were speaking with the charge nurse. Not aggressive, not dramatic, just paperwork and low voices. One of them noticed me. Major Bennett, he asked. Yes, we'll need to speak with you briefly about the incident. Standard procedure. Give me 5 minutes, I said. He nodded. Grant was still leaning against the wall. He'd taken his coat off at some point. Rolled up sleeves. Calm posture. Same look he had the first time we stood in a courthouse hallway signing marriage paperwork with no one from my family present. Police, he asked. Highway crash, I said. Multiple vehicles. They'll be sorting out fault. He studied me. You good? I've been worse. That wasn't sarcasm. 5 years of silence does something to you. It sands down the sharp edges. You stop expecting phone calls. You stop checking your email on holidays. You learn how to cook Thanksgiving dinner for 2 without making it feel like a protest. After Afghanistan, when I came back stateside, the house in Alexandria might as well have been on another planet. My mother sent 1 birthday card. No note inside. Just her signature. Vanessa never apologized. She doubled down. The IG investigation had cleared me. But the record of it sat in my file like a smudge you can't wipe off. It didn't stop promotions. It didn't stop assignments, but it was there. I made sure the rest of my file left no room for doubt. Trauma certification, additional thoracic training, teaching rotations, committees nobody volunteers for but everyone respects. I didn't just do my job, I overdid it. Residents started requesting my service because they knew I wouldn't let them hide behind excuses. I corrected people in the moment, not later. If you missed something, we fixed it, and we talked about it immediately. It wasn't personal. It was survival. 2 years ago, during a multi-vehicle crash response on base, I led a team that stabilized 6 patients in under 40 minutes. The hospital commander shook my hand afterward and said, "That's why we need officers like you." I almost laughed. 5 years earlier, another officer had looked at me across a desk and said, "If this allegation sticks, your career is over." Both statements were true in their own way. Grant built his own quiet life. Defense contracting paid well, but it came with long hours and zero glamour. He didn't care. He liked building things that worked. We bought a modest house near Bethesda. Nothing flashy. 2 bedrooms, small yard, enough space to breathe. Some nights we talked about kids. Some nights we didn't. The cabin in Shenandoah came up once. My parents had asked me to sign over my share of any future interest in it. Said it would simplify matters. I signed without a fight. I didn't want land that came with strings. Vanessa and her daughter continued living with my parents for a while. Then Vanessa moved out. Then back in. Then out again. I heard pieces of it through distant relatives, nothing direct. Credit issues. Business idea that didn't take off. Another relationship that didn't last. I didn't follow up. You can only carry so much resentment before it starts charging rent. The promotion board list came out 2 months before the snowstorm. My name was on it. Not guaranteed. Just eligible for lieutenant colonel. I didn't celebrate. In the Army, you don't celebrate until it's pinned. But I allowed myself one private moment in my office after I saw the list. I closed the door, sat down, let the silence settle. 5 years ago, I'd been one anonymous email away from losing everything I'd worked for. Now I was one board decision away from moving up. That felt like something. Back in the hospital hallway, my father stepped out of the ICU. "She looks peaceful," he said. "She's sedated." He nodded. Looked at the officers at the end of the corridor. "Is this about the crash?" "Yes." "What happened?" "Black ice," I said. "High speed. Distracted driving is likely." He frowned. "Vanessa wouldn't—" "She was texting," I said calmly. His face tightened. The officer approached us then. "Mr. Bennett," he asked my father. "Yes. We need to ask you a few questions regarding vehicle ownership and insurance coverage." My father blinked. "The car is in my name. Sir, there may be additional liability concerns. We're still sorting through the accident reports." Vanessa came out of the ICU just in time to hear that. "What liability?" she demanded. "Ma'am," the officer said evenly, "we'll discuss that privately." She looked at me like I'd orchestrated the weather. "This is unbelievable," she said. "You think I wanted this?" "No," I replied. "I think you were in a hurry." Her jaw tightened. "Madison is alive because of me," I continued. "Let's focus on that." She looked like she wanted to throw something. Instead, she crossed her arms and stared at the floor. My father's voice came out lower than usual. "Harper, about that email." I met his eyes. "It didn't write itself," I said. He swallowed. "You think Vanessa?" "I think it matched her story word for word," I said. Silence stretched between us. Not loud, just heavy. Inside the ICU, Madison shifted slightly under sedation. Outside, the storm finally started to die down. And for the first time in 5 years, my father looked less certain about which version of events he'd chosen to believe. The next morning, Madison's blood pressure dipped again. I was reviewing labs at the nurse's station when the monitor alarm changed pitch. Not flatline, not panic, just wrong. "Pressure's trending down," the ICU nurse said. 80/50 and sliding. I walked into the room without rushing. Rushing spreads. Calm is contagious. Madison was still intubated. Sedation lightened slightly so we could assess neurostatus. Her skin looked paler than it had overnight. "Repeat echo," I said. "Now." The tech rolled in the machine. Gel, probe, screen. There it was again. Not as dramatic as before, but fluid accumulating around the heart. Post-op bleed. Small but in the wrong place. Small becomes large fast. "Is she crashing?" My mother's voice came from behind me. I hadn't heard her come in. "She's unstable," I said. "We're handling it." Vanessa was right behind her eyes, wide hands shaking. "What's happening?" she demanded. I didn't look at her. "Step back." The ultrasound confirmed it. Reaccumulation. "She needs to go back to the OR," I said. "Now." Vanessa moved forward instead of back. "No," she said. "You already operated once. Get someone else." "Move," I said. She grabbed the side rail of the bed again like muscle memory. "I don't trust you," she snapped. "You've wanted to punish me for years." The nurse froze for half a second. The resident looked at me unsure. Madison's pressure dropped to 70. I turned to my father. "She has fluid compressing her heart again," I said clearly. "If we don't relieve it, she goes into cardiac arrest." Vanessa shook her head. "You're exaggerating." I met her eyes for the first time that morning. "I don't exaggerate in an ICU." She looked at my father. "Tell her no." My father looked from me to the monitor. The numbers weren't abstract anymore. "Harper," he started. I stepped closer to him, lowering my voice but not softening it. "You have exactly 4 minutes before this becomes a resuscitation." Instead of a surgery, I said, "If you want to refuse treatment, I'll have you sign an AMA form. It will state you declined life-saving intervention for a minor against medical advice." My mother gasped. My father blinked like I'd slapped him. And if she dies, he asked quietly. Then the district attorney will want that form, I said. Because refusing emergency surgery under these circumstances has consequences. Vanessa stared at me. You would threaten us, she said. I'm informing you, I replied. Those are different things. The monitor alarm changed again. Slower rhythm. Lower pressure. 3 minutes, I said. The resident swallowed hard. Prep transport, I told him. Or 1. Call anesthesia. Vanessa's voice broke. You hate me. This isn't about you, I said. It's always about you, she shot back. I ignored her. 2 minutes. My father's hand shook slightly. I'd never seen that before. Not when I left for Afghanistan. Not when he stood on parade grounds watching promotions. Not even when I walked out of his house that Thanksgiving night. He looked at the clipboard the nurse held out. The AMA form, Dad, Vanessa said. She's manipulating you. I didn't raise my voice. Sign it and kill her, I said evenly. Or move. The hallway outside the room went silent. Even the nurses who weren't assigned to us were watching now. My father looked at Madison's face. Small, pale, tubes everywhere. He didn't take the pen. He stepped aside. Do it, he said. That was all. Security gently guided Vanessa back when she tried to follow the bed. You can't, she started. We can, I said. And we are. We moved fast. No wasted steps, no wasted words. Back in the OR, the tension was tighter this time. Second surgery within 12 hours is never ideal. She's fragile, anesthesia warned. I know. We reopened the incision. More fluid than I wanted to see, less than it could have been. Source, the resident asked. Likely a slow bleeder we missed, I said. Not malpractice. Biology. I located it within minutes. Small vessel near the repair site. Clamp. Suture. Suction cleared the field. The heart beat against my gloved fingers. Not strong, but determined. Pressure climbing, anesthesia said. 85, 90. We reinforced the repair and placed a drain. No dramatic flatline this time. No heroic revival. Just controlled correction. When we closed, the room felt less hostile. I peeled off my gloves again, hand necessity. Outside, Vanessa was pacing in the hallway, arguing quietly with one of the officers from earlier. My mother sat with her head in her hands. My father stood when he saw me. She's stable, I said. Again. He exhaled like he'd been holding air since yesterday. Vanessa's eyes were red now. Not angry. Just exhausted. She almost died, she whispered. Yes, I said. Twice. She opened her mouth, then closed it. My father stepped closer. You were right, he said quietly. I didn't respond. The ICU doors opened as they rolled Madison back in. Machines reconnected. Numbers settled. I stood at the foot of the bed, watching the monitor normalize again. Vanessa approached slowly this time. Why are you doing this? She asked. Because she's 13, I said. And she didn't send that email. Vanessa's face tightened. For a second, something shifted behind her eyes. Not anger. Not defense. Fear. The officer stepped closer to her. Ma'am, he said. We need to talk about the accident report. She nodded, distracted. My father looked at me again, searching for something I wasn't offering. The monitor beeped steadily. Outside the window, the storm had finally cleared, leaving the parking lot buried in white. I stayed in the ICU longer than I needed to, not because Madison required constant supervision. The team had her stable lines, secure drains functioning. I stayed because leaving would mean standing in a hallway with my family and unfinished history. Madison stirred slightly under lighter sedation. Her eyelids fluttered, then settled. The ventilator adjusted with a soft mechanical sigh. Let's ease her down gradually, I told the nurse. No sudden changes. Yes, ma'am. I checked the chest tube output myself. Dark red minimal. Acceptable. When I finally stepped back into the hallway, Vanessa was sitting against the wall instead of pacing. That alone told me the crash had shaken her more than she wanted anyone to see. My father was speaking quietly with one of the officers. Insurance questions. Timeline. Ownership of the vehicle. Practical things that sound harmless until they're not. My mother approached me first. She asked for you, she said. Madison. She tried to say your name before they adjusted her sedation. I nodded. I'll go in. Inside the room, the lights were dimmed. Machines glowed in soft blues and greens. Madison's breathing was assisted but calmer. I stood beside her bed and waited. Her eyes opened slowly this time, not fully alert. Just enough. She saw me. Recognition came first, then something else. Guilt. Aunt Harper, she whispered through dry lips. Don't talk much, I said. You just had surgery. Her fingers moved weakly against the blanket. I leaned closer so she wouldn't strain. I'm sorry, she said. For what? Her eyes filled with tears that slid sideways toward her ears. Mom said, if I didn't say it, we'd lose the house. My chest didn't tighten. It went still. What house? The cabin, she said. She said Grandpa would lose it if you married him. Her breathing hitched. She made me practice. What to say? At Thanksgiving, I kept my face neutral. She didn't need my reaction. She needed air. You were 8, I said. You didn't ruin anything. She said, you broke up his marriage. That it was true. It wasn't, I said calmly. Madison closed her eyes for a second. I didn't know, she whispered. I was scared. I know. Her monitor ticked steadily. No dramatic spike. Just steady. The door opened quietly behind me. My father stood there. He'd heard enough. Madison, he said softly. She looked toward him. Grandpa, she breathed. Sweetheart, don't talk, he said. She ignored him. Mom said if I didn't say it, we'd sleep in the snow, she said. She said Aunt Harper was taking everything. My father's face changed in a way I hadn't seen before. Not anger, recognition. He stepped fully into the room, eyes never leaving Madison. Is that true? He asked gently. She nodded weakly. I didn't want you mad at me, she said. I'm not mad at you, he replied. His voice cracked on the last word. The nurse adjusted the IV rate. She needs rest, she said quietly. Madison's eyes drifted closed again. My father stood there for a long moment after she fell back into sleep. He didn't look at me right away. When he finally did, he didn't look like the man who opened a door and told me not to come back. She told us you were threatening to sue, he said quietly. Said you wanted your share of the cabin. I signed it away, I said. You remember that? He nodded slowly. She said you only signed because you'd already gotten what you wanted. What did I want, I asked. Grant, he said. And money. I almost laughed. Grant and I got married in a courthouse on a Wednesday, I said. If that was about money, we picked the wrong plan. He rubbed a hand over his face. The cabin had a line of credit on it, he said finally. I know. His head snapped toward me. You know, I found out during the IG investigation, I said. When someone referenced financial stress as motive. He stared at me. Vanessa said she needed the HELOC for a business, he said. She needed it to stay afloat, I replied. Credit cards, loans. He looked like he'd been punched. I co-signed, he said. I assumed you did. The pieces were sliding into place for him now. Not gently. That email, he said slowly. It mentioned timing, deployment, public scandal. Yes, she knew exactly what to write. Yes. He stepped back slightly, absorbing it. Outside the room, raised voices carried faintly through the glass. Vanessa arguing again. This time not about surgery. The officer's tone remained even. Calm, professional. My father glanced toward the hallway. What else don't I know, he asked. I held his gaze. You don't know how close that investigation came to ending my career, I said. You don't know what it's like to stand in a room and have strangers question your integrity while your own family stays silent. His shoulders sagged. I thought I was protecting this family, he said. You protected the wrong version of it. The words landed without heat. Madison's heart rate remained steady on the monitor. In the hallway, a phone buzzed loudly. Vanessa's voice dropped to a whisper I couldn't make out. Then the officer's voice again. Ma'am, we're going to need to look at that device. Silence followed. My father closed his eyes briefly, and for the first time since that Thanksgiving night, he looked like he understood that believing a lie is still a choice. Vanessa's voice cracked in the hallway. Why do you need my phone? She demanded. Ma'am, the officer said evenly. We have reason to believe distracted driving may have contributed to the collision. I told you I wasn't distracted. Multiple witnesses reported your vehicle drifting before impact. I hit black ice. Your phone activity shows outgoing messages within seconds of the crash. Silence. I stepped out of the ICU and joined them. Vanessa was holding her phone like it was a lifeline. My mother stood off to the side looking confused. My father looked like he was aging in real time. It's nothing, Vanessa said quickly when she saw me. Just texts. The officer extended his hand. Ma'am. She hesitated. Then she handed it over. The officer scrolled briefly, then turned the screen slightly away from her. Who is Vinny? He asked. Vanessa's face drained of color. That's none of your business. It is if you were texting him at 72 miles per hour during a snow advisory. My father blinked. Funny too. Vanessa turned to him. I was trying to get home before it got worse. The officer read aloud from the screen. I'll talk to them tonight. I'll make them refinance the cabin. Just give me one more week. The hallway went quiet. My mother looked at Vanessa. Refinance. It's not what it sounds like, Vanessa snapped. What does it sound like? My father asked. Vanessa's jaw tightened. It's just paperwork. The officer continued. Please don't send anyone to the house. Madison is with me. My mother put a hand over her mouth. The officer locked the phone and held it at his side. Ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us to complete a statement. Child endangerment and reckless driving are under review. Vanessa laughed once sharp and hollow. Child endangerment. I was driving my own daughter home. At excessive speed in severe conditions while texting about financial leverage involving property not solely in your name, the officer replied. My father's voice came out rough. You were using the cabin as collateral. Vanessa didn't answer. He stepped closer. You told us you paid off the line of credit. I was working on it, she said. With what he pressed. She looked at me like I'd caused gravity. This is because of her, she said. She made you all think I'm some criminal. I folded my arms. You sent an anonymous email to the army accusing me of adultery, I said calmly. You coached your 8-year-old to repeat it. You leveraged property you didn't own to cover debt. And you were texting a lender while driving in a snowstorm. She shook her head. You're twisting it. No, I said. You just ran out of better versions. The officer stepped forward. Ma'am? Vanessa looked at Madison's room through the glass. I can't leave her, she whispered. She's stable, I said. She'll be here when you're done. Vanessa's eyes flickered, searching for sympathy. For 5 years, she'd controlled the story. Tonight, facts were louder. My mother moved toward her. Vanessa, she said softly. Why didn't you tell us? Vanessa's shoulders sagged. I couldn't, she said. You would have cut me off. My father's expression hardened. We cut off the wrong daughter, he said quietly. That landed harder than anything I could have said. The officer guided Vanessa gently toward the elevator. No cuffs yet. Just procedure. She stopped in front of me. I didn't think it would go this far, she said. It always goes this far, I replied. For you, she shot back. For anyone who thinks lies don't have consequences. She looked like she wanted to argue, but words didn't line up for her anymore. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside with the officers. My mother leaned against the wall once the doors closed. Debt, she whispered. My father nodded slowly. She maxed credit cards 2 years ago, he said. Said it was temporary. I co-signed the HELOC extension. I thought she had a plan. She did, I said. It just involved me being the villain. My mother looked at me through tears. We didn't ask you, she said. No, I agreed. Madison's monitor beeped steadily behind the glass. The hallway felt emptier without Vanessa's energy bouncing off it. Grant walked over and stood beside me. You okay? He asked quietly. I'm not surprised, I said. He nodded. That's not the same as okay. I glanced at my parents. They looked smaller now. Not physically. Just certain parts of them had deflated. My father stepped closer. The cabin, he said. She's behind on payments. I assumed. She told us you were threatening legal action over it, he continued. Said you wanted your half. I signed that away 5 years ago. He closed his eyes briefly. I remember, he said. Madison stirred again in the ICU. The nurse adjusted her lines. My mother wiped her face. She apologized to you, she said. Madison did. I know. And you forgave her. She was 8, I said. Fear isn't the same as malice. My father looked at me carefully. And Vanessa, that's different. He nodded once, accepting that without pressing. The officer returned a few minutes later with paperwork for my father to sign regarding vehicle ownership and insurance details. Vanessa wasn't with him. She's providing a statement, he said. My father signed where indicated. The pen shook slightly in his hand. Inside the ICU, Madison's numbers held steady. Outside, the sun had started reflecting off the snow, turning the parking lot painfully bright. And for the first time since the ambulance doors opened, the chaos felt less like a storm and more like a reckoning. Vanessa came back an hour later without the officers. No cuffs, no dramatic escort, just paperwork signed and a court date pending. Her makeup was gone. Not smeared. Gone. Like she'd wiped everything off and decided there was no point putting it back. My father stood when he saw her. What did they say, he asked. Reckless driving, she replied flatly. Child endangerment under review. I have to appear next month. My mother pressed a hand to her chest. They won't take Madison from you, she said quickly. Vanessa didn't answer. Her eyes drifted toward the ICU. Can I see her? She asked. Yes, I said, but keep it calm. She nodded and walked inside. I stayed in the hallway with my parents. My father didn't look at me right away. I didn't ask you a single question that night, he said quietly. No. I didn't check the court records. No. I believed the version that fit. Yes. He exhaled slowly. I thought I was protecting this family from scandal, he said. From embarrassment. You protected the story, I said, not the truth. He nodded once. Did you ever consider fighting it, he asked. The cabin, the lie. Yes, I said. Then I decided I didn't want to spend years in court arguing with someone who already rewrote reality. My mother wiped at her eyes again. We thought you signed the waiver because you felt guilty, she said. I signed it because I was done, I replied. The ICU door opened. Vanessa stepped out. Her face was different now. Not angry, not defensive, just hollow. She asked about the cabin, Vanessa said quietly. My father blinked. Why? She heard us arguing about it before the crash, Vanessa admitted. She thought she caused it. Silence. She thinks the accident happened because she lied about you, Vanessa added. That's not how physics works, I said. Vanessa looked at me. No, she agreed. It's not. We stood there in a triangle of history. My father broke it. Did you send the email? He asked her. She didn't answer immediately. When she did, it wasn't loud. Yes. My mother inhaled sharply. You told us you didn't, she said. I thought it would scare her, Vanessa said. Just enough to make her back off. Back off what I asked. The cabin, she said. You were getting promoted. You were stable. I thought you'd come for it. I signed it away before deployment, I said. I didn't know that, she snapped. You didn't ask, I replied. She looked down at her hands. I was drowning, she said quietly. Credit cards. Loans. The HELOC was maxed. Vinny was calling every day. I needed time. So you gave them a villain, I said. She swallowed. I didn't think they'd choose me over you, she said. My father let out a short, humorless breath. They always choose the child who looks like they need saving, he said. Vanessa's eyes filled. I needed saving, she whispered. You needed honesty, I said. She stepped closer to me then. For 5 years, she'd stood across rooms from me with a raised chin and a rehearsed narrative. Now she stood a foot away. Eyes red, voice smaller. Please, she said. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. Just a single word that landed heavy. Don't make this harder than it already is, she continued. Don't tell them everything. I already did, I said. I mean legally, she said. The email, the loans, the texts. You could press it. I held her gaze. You sent a false allegation to a federal office, I said. You leveraged property you didn't own. You texted a lender while driving your daughter through a snowstorm. Her voice cracked. I know what I did. Do you? She nodded quickly. I was desperate, she said. I thought if I kept the cabin, I could fix it. If you married Grant and got stable, you'd want your half. I'd lose everything. You lost everything anyway, I said. Tears slid down her face now. I didn't mean for Madison to get hurt, she whispered. I know, I said. That doesn't make it better. No, I agreed. It doesn't. She stepped even closer. Please, she said again. Don't let her pay for what I did. I won't, I said. She won't pay for your choices. And me, she asked. That depends on the court. She looked like she wanted something softer. Forgiveness. A reset button. A rewrite. You don't have to hate me, she said. I don't, I replied. That surprised her. I just don't trust you, I continued. And I don't owe you restoration. Her shoulders dropped slightly. That's worse, she said. It's honest. My father stepped between us slightly, not to defend her, just to steady himself. Harper, he said quietly. Is there anything we can do? For Madison, I asked. Yes. Show up, I said. For her. Not for the cabin. Not for appearances. Just her. He nodded. And for you, my mother asked. I considered that for a moment. There isn't a version of this where we go back, I said calmly. There's only a version where we move forward with different expectations. Vanessa wiped her face again. I never thought I'd be begging you, she said quietly. I met her eyes. Neither did I. Inside the ICU, Madison shifted again, more alert this time. The monitor beeped steadily, uncomplicated by history. Outside the window, snow began sliding off the hospital roof in thick sheets, dropping to the ground without ceremony. I didn't wait for anyone to respond. I walked back into Madison's room, checked her chart, adjusted the sedation plan, and updated the notes myself. Not because someone else couldn't do it, because I wanted the last medical entry of the night to be in my handwriting. Stable. Post-operative course improving. Neurological response appropriate. Continue monitoring. Clear, objective, no drama. When I stepped back into the hallway, my parents were still standing there like they weren't sure whether they were allowed to move. Grant handed me a bottle of water. You haven't sat down in 12 hours, he said. I've stood longer, I replied. He gave me a look that said he knew that wasn't the point. My father took a step toward me. I owe you more than an apology, he said. I let him speak. I should have checked the records. I should have asked you first. You should have trusted me, I said. He nodded. Yes. Silence hung there for a second, not heavy this time. Just honest. I chose the version that made me comfortable, he admitted. The one that protected the house. The family name. The image. That image cost you a daughter, I said. His jaw tightened. I know. My mother stepped closer. We thought you'd fight harder, she said. For us. I did, I replied. Just not the way you expected. They looked confused. I built a career you couldn't question, I continued. I married a man you couldn't discredit. I paid my own bills. I stopped asking for approval. Grant's hand rested lightly at my back. Not possessive, just steady. My father cleared his throat. The cabin. We may lose it, he said quietly. With the refinancing issues and the accident liability. I don't want it, I said. That's not what I'm asking. What are you asking? If we fix it, he said carefully. If we sell it, restructure it. Whatever it takes. Would you come back? There it was. Not about property, about access. I don't live there, I said. I haven't for 5 years. I mean the family, he said. I met his eyes directly. You didn't lose me tonight, I said calmly. You lost me 5 years ago. My mother started crying again, but quieter now. That's not fair, she whispered. It's accurate. My father swallowed. Can we rebuild? He asked. You can build something new, I said. But it won't look like before. He nodded slowly like he understood that conditions had changed. Vanessa stepped out of the ICU again, eyes tired but clearer. She's asking for water, she said. That's good, I replied. Small sips. No rush. Vanessa hesitated. I don't expect you to forgive me, she said. I don't want her thinking we're enemies. We're not enemies, I said. We're consequences. She almost smiled at that, almost. I'll take whatever the court gives me, she said quietly. I won't drag you into it. You already did, I replied. Years ago. She nodded once. I know. The hallway had quieted down. Shift change was approaching. The storm had cleared completely, leaving the world outside bright and indifferent. My father straightened slightly. Will you at least come to dinner? He asked. Not this year, I said. And next, I don't schedule forgiveness on a calendar. He exhaled, accepting that. We were wrong, she said. Yes, I agreed. Grant checked his watch. You need sleep, he told me. I need a shower, I said. And coffee that doesn't taste like punishment. That got a small laugh out of him. Even my father's mouth twitched. It wasn't reconciliation. It was reality. I walked back into Madison's room one more time before leaving. She was awake now, eyes clearer, breathing on her own with oxygen support. You're stubborn, I told her. She gave a faint smile. Mom says I get that from Grandpa, she whispered. That tracks, I said. She studied my face carefully. Are you mad at her? She asked. I'm careful with her, I replied. She nodded, satisfied enough. You saved me, she said. That's my job. No, she insisted softly. You could have said no. I don't say no to heart repairs, I said. It's a professional weakness. She smiled again, then winced slightly. Rest, I said. I stepped out, pulled the door halfway closed, and handed her care fully back to the ICU team. My parents were still there when I returned to the hallway. Call the nurse if you need updates, I told them. I'll review her labs remotely tonight. You're leaving? My mother asked. My shift ended 2 hours ago. My father looked like he wanted to stop me, but he didn't. Harper, he said instead. I paused. I'm proud of you, he said. 5 years ago, that sentence would have fixed everything. Tonight, it just existed. Thank you, I said. Grant and I walked down the corridor toward the atrium. The morning light poured through the glass ceiling, bouncing off snow that looked clean from a distance. Outside cars were already moving again. Plows clearing lanes. People returning to routines like nothing had shifted. Grant squeezed my hand lightly. You okay? He asked. I am now, I said. Behind us, my family stood in a hospital hallway they never expected to need me in. Ahead of us was a parking lot buried in snow and a life I built without their approval. I didn't look back. I used to think revenge meant winning. It doesn't. Revenge stories aren't really about destroying the other person. They're about surviving the version of you they tried to create. My sister destroyed my life with a lie, and for a while that felt true. The accusation, the investigation, the silence from my own parents, it all hurt. But the truth is, she didn't destroy my life. She revealed who was willing to believe the worst about me. Family revenge stories aren't about payback. They're about boundaries, about choosing dignity over access, about understanding that forgiveness is optional but self-respect isn't. When she was begging me to save her child, I didn't feel powerful. I felt clear. I did my job. I kept my oath. And I walked away without needing their validation. Sometimes the strongest move in any family drama is not going back. If this story meant something to you, if you've ever been cut off, falsely accused, or pushed out by your own family, you're not alone. These revenge stories aren't about bitterness. They're about resilience. Subscribe to the channel for more real grounded family drama stories where truth wins even when it takes years.